Hello friends, welcome back to my channel Mukesh English. This is Mukesh Soni. Friends, in this video we shall have a discussion of the important questions from the famous play Pygmalion by George Bernard Shaw. So here very first we shall have a discussion of the 2 marks questions, and the question number 1 we have here: why did the lady agree to buy flowers for the flower girl? Colliding into flower peddler Eliza Doolittle, Freddie scatters her flowers. After he departs to continue looking for a cab, Eliza convinces Mrs. Ainsford Hill to pay for the damaged flowers. The lady agrees to buy flowers from the flower girl. Question number 2: why does the crowd get upset with the note maker? Because he was noting down the every word of Eliza, the flower girl, and he was mistaken either as a spy or as a detective. Question number 3: what is the profession of the note maker? The note maker, the note maker was a professor of phonetics, the science of speech. Question number 4: how did the note taker make a living out of teaching phonetics? He makes his living teaching people to he makes his living teaching people to speak properly with proper pronunciation. Question number 5: what claim did the note maker make with respect to the language? Higgins is an expert, Higgins, who is considered as a note maker, who is an expert in phonetics, and he claims, I can place any man within 6 miles, I can place him within 2 miles in London, and sometimes within 2 streets. That's what he claims. Who were the note taker and the gentleman? The note taker was Professor Higgins, and the gentleman was Colonel Pickering. Please correct the spelling. Gentleman, M-A-N. So the note maker, Professor Higgins, the gentleman, Colonel Pickering. Why had the flower girl come to meet Mr. Higgins? Because Eliza had come to see Professor Higgins to take lessons from him. So she has come to meet Professor Higgins because she would like to few lessons. She would like to learn lessons from him, especially uh, to speak English in a very fluent and a very accurate manner. Why did Eliza want to learn proper English? Eliza told Pickering that she wants to be a lady in a fashionable flower shop. They won't take her unless she learns to talk good English. What is a bet between Mr. Higgins and Mr. Pickering? Colonel Pickering takes a bet that if Higgins can pass her, if Higgins can pass Eliza as a flower girl, if Higgins can pass her off as a duchess, as an at the ambassador's party within 6 months, he would pay for the entire experiment. So he says that if Higgins can train this lady within 6 months, so the for the forthcoming party that's going to be held at ambassador's party within 6 months, and he would pay the entire experiment. Who is will pay entire experiment? Higgins. And finally, sorry, the Pickering will pay the entire expenditure. So Pickering says that if Higgins can pass this lady, if Higgins can train this lady as a duchess for the forthcoming ambassador's party within 6 months, so Pickering is ready to pay for the entire experiment, and Higgins is ready for this experiment, for this teaching. Who was Alfred Doolittle? So Alfred Doolittle was Eliza's father. How did Mr. Doolittle know the address of Eliza? He knows the address of Eliza from a taxi driver. Mr. Doolittle knew the address of Eliza from a taxi driver. Why had Mr. Higgins invited Eliza to the house of Mrs. Higgins? It was a test of Eliza. She would talk of weather and everyone's health. So why Mr. Higgins invited Eliza? To have a test, and there she would speak about weather and everyone's health. Who were the guests at Mrs. Higgins? Professor Higgins, Colonel Pickering, Mrs. and Miss Hill, Mr. Ainsford Hill, that is Freddie. They're all invited, arrived at the party, and lastly, Miss Doolittle also arrived and created a sensation. Question number 14. What were Mrs. Higgins' impression about Eliza? According to Mrs. Higgins, Eliza is not presentable. She looks beautiful, but she gives her identity away when she speaks. Her manners and the words and that she uses are not perfect. Who was Whiskers? Whiskers is the first student of Higgins in Pygmalion. He makes an appearance in the Act 3 of the play, and he's also referred to as Nepomuk. He's called Whiskers more as a description because of his large facial hair. Question number 16. What was Nepomuk doing at the reception? Nepomuk is Higgins' one of the old students. He knows 32 languages. He's greatly in demand at the international parties as an interpreter. That's the reason that was the thing he was doing at the reception. Why did the presence of Nepomuk frighten Mr. Pickering? The presence of Nepomuk, Higgins' best student of phonetics, provides a requisite degree of danger to Eliza's trial. Nepomuk recognizes Higgins and brags about his ability of being able to place any man in Europe by the sole virtue of his pronunciation. This worries Pickering, who is afraid that Nepomuk might detect Eliza's origins and blackmail her. Higgins replies that they must wait to see what happens and concedes that if Nepomuk exposes Eliza, then he shall lose his bet. Question number 18. Whom does Nepomuk think Eliza was? Nepomuk is convinced Eliza must be Hungarian and of noble blood because she speaks English too perfectly, and only foreigners who have been taught to speak English can speak it well. Question number 19. Whom had Mr. Higgins written a letter to? Mr. Higgins had written a letter to an American millionaire, Mr. Van Feller. Mr. Van Feller, that Alfred Doolittle was the most original moralist in England in those days. Question number 20. Who would Eliza marry and why? Eliza would marry Freddie because she was better off with Freddie, a man who respected her and loved her. She would be able to have some freedom to make her own way in the world. And the last question, what work does Eliza plan to do? She thought she would earn money by teaching phonetics. She would become assistant to Nepomuk, but finally, both Eliza and Freddie opened a flower shop near Victoria and Albert Museum. So this is how I have tried to solve the 2 marks questions. Dear friends, thank you so much for watching this video. You can reach me at mukeshenglish@gmail.com. Please do subscribe the channel, click on the like button for more videos on literature, workbook, pronunciation, grammar, communication skills, presentation skills, interview skills. Stay in tune with Mukesh English. Thank you once again.